Let's welcome two distinguished guests for this conversation. Jason Ho, co-founder of BEYOND Expo, and Dr. Huang Kuan, Senior Managing Director of Asia Green Fund. Welcome.
Say who? Timer 是4分多钟. Okay, anyways.
Okay.
All right, welcome guys. It's me again. I'm not sure if you guys wanted to hear my voice again, but here we are. Yes, thank you. So, I think Dr. Huang, because I know your company quite a while already, and not you personally, but your company.
Yep.
I think when we wanted to talk about investment, impact investing, and all that,
That's right.
from the investor standpoint, what criteria or signals do you look for when deciding whether this is a green technology? Is it worthy for a long-term investment? Like, how do you assess risk and also transformative potential?
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. And my great pleasure to be hosted here. Firstly, I want to congratulate for this very successful
Thank you.
expo. Yeah, and so Asia Green Fund is, as you know, it's a green impact-driven fund, and we are established in 2016, right? So by that time, we set up the dual goal that this fund has to make money, right? It has to have a risk-adjusted delivery of the financial return, but in the meantime, have a significant and quantifiable environmental impact, right? So that's why for the past 6-7 years, we've been focusing on green areas across like renewable energy, green mobility, green manufacturing, and consumption areas. I think it's a great question. Like when you have this goal of the dual goal, but you want to make an environment impact, right? What kind of criteria you will have to use? Basically, we're looking for 3 words, right? First, scale. The second is connectivity, and the third is business vitality, right? So for the scale, actually, we've seen lots of successful cases and huge industries in sustainability. For example, like the solar, right? We've been in the age of like a multi-terawatt of solar installations as of today. And also like EV, right? The penetration, for example, in China last year is more than 50%. So we are looking for new sectors that has a scale that's matchable to these ones, right? For example, like a next generation of green fuel and the sustainable, like a whole suite of sustainable chemicals, but also like the AI. We see all this AI and robots kind of driven digitalization, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, connectivity. We've been thinking about not only the connectivity of different sectors, but also like how to make sense across different economies, right? I use green hydrogen as an example, right? Because it is exactly like on one hand, it's connecting mega sectors like agriculture, safety, energy transition, and transportation, etc. So big potentials there. But also it plays a pivotal role right now to connect the strategic goals of the various economies, like the energy independence in EU, and transitioning from the brown to green in the Middle East, right? And also to release manufacturing power of China. So it all makes sense to connect these things. And the third key term is, of course, the business vitality, right? And we've also always been looking for like the signs whether a business has been really close to the inflection point. Do you have the infrastructure ready? Do you have the techno-economics ready? Do you have the business environment ready, etc. Right? So talking about that, actually, I have a question for you, which is, and you've seen lots of young entrepreneurs here by holding the expo, right? How do you see them like balancing their visions, especially like the sustainability visions, with the vitality of their business.
Yeah, I think usually I think startups, the first thing they have to think of is survival, right?
Yeah.
So not only Chinese market is very competitive, but also I think unless it's company like Justin, they at, at the very beginning they were thinking about doing a sustainability company, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think most of the companies wouldn't think of that until later stage. But I think younger generations right now, I would say are more concerned, or they will have the sense of having some kind of sustainability in their businesses. But
Yeah.
then I think there's still the key component is to survive, right?
That's right.
So unless they can grow big and really have the financial power to really support that vision, I don't think a lot of startups will think about this right away, right? So it's always like just like you said, the balance of how we can see financially and also environmentally, right? So I think those two doesn't really come together in a lot of cases, but maybe just like Justin, that might be the only case that I could think of right now. Yeah.
Right. That's the hard part, the balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So okay, another question back to you then. So in your experience, like how can large funds, just like you guys, or institutions, better engage with early stage innovations without like asking them not to focus too much on the creativity and speed, right?
Yeah.
So how can you make that balance?
That's right. I think firstly, I think everything starts from trust, right? When our goal, for example, is to invest in someone and something we believe is innovative,
Right.
trust is the first. So we have to have the belief that they are the best man, they are the best innovations, and no matter what you do, you can't be more innovative than these entrepreneurs, right? So and the innovators.
Yeah.
So I think from our perspective, the thing that investor, especially institutional investor, should consider most is how to provide this safeguard for the founders, so that these innovative guys can really be focusing on where this investment can generate the most ROIs, which is the innovations by itself, right? And then handle other things for them.
Yeah.
One thing I think we've been increasingly observing for the last few years, especially in China, is that I think there's one thing the institutes can play is to leverage the sense of business in industrial cycles, and also the capability of the capital structuring to help these founders to balance more between the growth and the innovations and the capex spending.
Yeah.
This is hard for really like a science and technology background guys, but this is like a strength of the institute, right? I'll give you one example, which is this biomanufacturing company that we invested called Moja Bio. So basically, it's engineering the bacteria and converting, for example, like methanol and other like non-food carbon into premium carbon chemicals. Right, so this is the business, and they have a beautiful platform that can generate all sort of high premium chemicals. But that's a team built by the scientists, right? So instead of involving them heavily in capex and spending and making decisions on where they want to build the factory, how do they find the money, right? So we orchestrate this capital structure to ensure that they can be the key guys to be there to run the labs, run the platform, and to constantly enrich their pipeline and to bring them onto the pilot scale. And from there, we have this capital structure to take over, and also the industrial partnership to scale them up, build manufacturing facilities, etc., and taking care of those things.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably where we can kick in the most.
Right.
Yeah.
So how early stage can you guys invest in right now? Like,
We can the earliest we can do is seed.
oh,
Right, so we do a pretty
Okay.
wide range so mostly it's from the seed pre-A to like the early growth stage.
Okay,
Right.
nice.
We occasionally do like M&A sort of deals as well.
Got it.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's our coverage.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Okay.
So yeah, and now if we go back to the expo, right?
Yeah.
So it's been quite a few years and very successful years,
Yeah.
right? So what do you see this platform? We talked about how the institutes can do, right? This platform. But what kind of role you think it plays in facilitating the new generation of entrepreneurs toward their business success?
Yeah, I think this year I'm quite happy with the numbers of startups that are joining us. It's not easy for them to travel to Macau, but I think platform like us, because we are very focused on the Asia market. I think during my opening speech I was saying that I think 60% of the population is here. There's so much opportunities over here that I think a lot of people are not looking into it. So that's why we felt like there's a need of this kind of events that we could really bring people together in the Asian community, and also allowing partners just like this, right? Having partners from Middle East, from Europe, from Latin America, to allow companies from Asia to explore the opportunities over there. So I think that's how we started it, and we tend to keep doing it until it doesn't work anymore. So I think it's just a platform, I think, for everyone to get to meet people, get to meet investors like you guys. I think it's very important for us to really provide value for people to join our event. I don't think it's sustainable if it's just an event with no value. So that's why we kept trying to improve ourselves and try to bring as much value as we could, so everyone can keep coming back. And eventually, I don't think we are just a 3-day event, right?
Yeah.
We hope that after the event, people can still talk to each other, people can still work together, and also people can still find the investment, right? So I think that's the power of a platform, and we just wanted to create this platform, and a very inclusive platform. Yeah.
Right.
No.
Way to go. And I like the fact that it's recurring every year, right? So you started to build up this culture for this expo.
I hope, yeah, I hope. I think Macau is a great place. I think Asia is a great place. I think people at least are having fun here. So hope that we can keep doing it, and more people could join us, and more people could understand why we are doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so move to our next question. So yeah, I think you touched on a little bit on this question a little bit already. I think what role do strategic partnerships like policy incentives or long-term capital play in bridging the commercial gap? So I think that's something in my mind. A few years ago, when I think I talked to Bible before, like I wanted to do more impact investing and all that. I think it's a very hard. I mean, people always talk about impact investing, right? But I think it's very hard to really. You just mentioned those 3 key points, right? But how can you work with different partners and policies, decision makers? Like, how can you make them to support what you guys are doing? I think that's a very hard thing to do, and because it might not be translating into economically value, but like how can you convince them to support what you guys are doing?
yeah. That's I think that's a tough question because especially in China, we've been seeing, sometimes the policy incentives can be really important. You have to catch the cycle. And also we see that industrial partnership and because of the manufacturing ecosystem in China is usually very complete, right? And usually you have some big names in the downstream, right? So to get their support is very important.
Yeah.
But I think we've been seeing this more that actually, from a business point of view, the inner energy for these startups, I think is the thing that really matters, right? And we see the successful commercialization. I think the thing that it lacks most is probably not the policy incentives or the strategic partnership, but its intrinsic power of two pillars, which is the tech innovations and also the business model innovation, right? Because if you don't have tech innovation, you won't have a barrier, right?
Yeah, of course.
But if you don't have business model innovation, then basically after a few while you have to be squeezed into this war of gross margin. Basically, it's like the Neijuan, we've seen in China. So these pillars are super important, right? So I think for any startups, the most important thing is to be able to build these two pillars simultaneously, right? And then through that way to gain the strategic partnership, right? So one example of our portfolio is a company called Kingwells. So this is a company that has made breakthroughs in a breathable and waterproof material. So this material has been dominated by a US chemical and material giant for like 6 years. And Kingwell is the first company that get into this market after this US guy, right? But we can see that the US giant, it plays at the top of the pyramid, right? So super high margin. It's basically like a medical packaging and the construction waterproof areas. So they've been there for like decades, right? And never moving around. But this company we invested, instead of competing head to head in these areas, they make innovations, and the innovations bring down their cost. So they get better margins. And then I think one thing they did the best is that they have this agility and flexibility to get into other markets and applications. For example, like printing, for example, like a creative, creative designs, those kind of and luxury goods, kind of materials. So that totally opens up new possibilities for them instead of getting Neijuan with this US company, right? So that's, I think, the two pillars we are talking about.
Right.
And I think where we can do most as a capital, if we stay long enough, you mentioned long term for them.
Yeah.
Right? But also, I think to build up this ecosystem is very helpful, right? And I noticed that because this expo is like a window, as you mentioned, to invite people to come in, right? But I also noticed that you've been doing things to help the Chinese and this Macau companies to go out, right? Especially into the Latino and Portuguese-based market, emerging markets.
I think we talk about going overseas. We actually having something we call the Be Global Network. I don't think it's only for Chinese companies. I think it's generally for Asian companies. Where Japanese companies, they wanted to go to Chinese market, or even Chinese market wanted to go to Japanese market, or Korean companies that wanted to utilize the supply chain in China to lower their costs, right? So I think, to me, going overseas or be global, it's not only for Chinese companies, but of course we see a lot of Chinese companies having such demand on that. So I think it's something that we try very hard to build the ecosystem around. We try to bring in stakeholders that could help them, investors that could help them. We try to close the loops a little bit, right? So we have a lot of general partners from a fund management perspectives, but we do have a lot of family offices coming as well as an LP
Yeah.
perspective. So we try to close the loops, but at the end of the day, we try to help the startups as well, right?
Yeah.
So if the GP can get money from the LP, right, the GP can invest in the startups as well. So I think that's the way we see how we can provide values and how we can create a ecosystem around it.
Yeah.
So building a platform like this is not easy. People don't understand it doesn't come just like this, right? So it takes a lot of effort and time to really build something like this. And we try to make it, as you said, long term, right? So to make it more sustainable, so we keep trying to give as much as value that we could provide to them, then hopefully people can benefit from it, and this platform could run it itself because it has the resources internally, and hopefully it could, like a snowball, it runs bigger and bigger eventually. Yeah.
What do you think is, so if there's one thing that's lacking in the ecosystem, what do you think that is?
I think it really depends on different countries. From my perspective, maybe in China, I think we kind of lack the CVC angle. So I think everything you see, population is there, right? The money is there, the government is very supportive, policies all there. But I think CVC is something that I don't see a lot right now in China, that I see a lot in Japan, that I see some in Korea, not so much in Southeast Asia as well.
Yeah.
So I think having the industrial background like the CVC has, it actually provides a lot more value to the startups.
That's right.
So I think that's something that I felt like it might be lacking, and hopefully in some days that would come back. Or yeah. So maybe we can go to our last question for Dr. Huang. I think this question is kind of hard to ask, but I think, how do you feel the energy, urgency, and sometimes idealism of youth in sustainability efforts? I think that's kind of something that I was quite confused a few years ago as well. Like how do you define doing good, right? Like as you said, youth might our younger generations wanted to do more to help the environment, but like how can you let them know that, okay, this is the reality and this is what you guys think, but get back to reality.
Yeah, especially we've been seeing this passion of a newer generation. I mean, in Hong Kong, Macau, but also in mainland China as well, right? I've been talking with people like young people from wealthy families, and they've been setting up clubs and kind of things to gather together. These people who have a passion for sustainability, right? But my view is, like, at the end of the day, right? Sustainability is a language, right? But it only makes sense when you integrate this language into a business perspective, right? So how to understand the value of sustainability and its integration to the business value is very important. A lot of times it's not that it doesn't carry the value. It's how you articulate it and how you consider it into your corporate strategies, right? We've seen entrepreneurs, like, they have this very vague idea that the thing I'm doing is for good, right? It's environmentally friendly. But we've been helping this kind of companies. We talk with them. We say you have to build this exact product, by mapping your product, by really, like, calculating its carbon footprint and carbon reduction influence,
Yep.
and send it for authorities to get third-party validation, right, and integrate it into your digital system so that it becomes part of the business, and then so that you can articulate its business meaning to your customers, right? So we've seen this kind of companies, and some of these entrepreneurs, they listened, they practice it, and they have this whole new suite of digital platform that has this component, and then they can show their customers the real meaning of this sustainability, right? And it works pretty well, for like, especially if the customers are in EU and other major economies, right? So I think to be able to do this translation is probably one of the most important things, and especially for the newer generation, right? But we've also seen that there's probably like some intergeneration, I'd say, discrepancy on how to take this idea of sustainability, right? And I believe you've seen this succession, and you probably have seen this clash of different views from the generations, right? So how do you think about it? And how do you think that best way to reconcile the discrepancies?
Just talk to each other, have a conversation. I don't think there's anything we can do about that, right? I think each generation has its own experience and own ways to think. I don't think it's the right way to change people, and there's no. I mean, even I don't think we can change our other half at all, right?
Right.
So I think if you talk about generations as a whole, then I don't think it's gonna happen. But I think just be understanding to each other, and there must be a way to be able to find a balance or to find a solution to everything. So.
Yeah. So it's more about like speaking on the same channel.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Instead of
I think
forcing others.
it's the same way to the geopolitics issues as well. Yeah, I think people just have to talk, be friends. Yeah, you don't have to love each other, but at least understand each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I think time's running out. We don't take take the time out of our next panelists. So thank you, everyone.